Hi everybody, welcome to Kate's Paper Creations. I'm Kate with a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Washington State, and I'm happy to have you join me today as I create a new card. This is the card we're going to create today, and this is what I call a floating circle, and I'll explain more about that as we go along. But let's get into some of the prep for this particular card. You're going to need a piece of acetate or a piece of window sheet from the Stampin' Up! Catalog. They sell window sheets. This particular piece that I have is 5 by 8.5, and then I have taken strips from Pansy Petals, I believe it's called, get the right name, Pansy Petals Designer Series papers, and I have cut multiple strips in different widths. They're all cut 5 inches long, but they're cut from 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. And so there's 3 different sizes, all 5 inches long. And I'm using the fronts and the backs to create a pattern, and you can kind of see I've already laid out the pattern I'm going to lay these out in on my acetate, so I don't have to think about that while I'm doing the video. I'm going to be attaching these with Stampin' Seal. And when you put your Stampin' Seal onto your pieces, you're going to want to make sure that you cover the entire back so that when you get ready to start punching out the circles and punching out this design, all the pieces will remain attached. So that's what we're going to do. And let me just get this first one on here, just like that. And then in between each one, I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap in between each one so that that acetate shines through. Now this is the 1/4 inch piece, and of course this is going to go clear off the edge. And so I'm just going to kind of clean that up a little bit so it doesn't stick out past. We'll do that. Takes just a minute to get that taken care of so that adhesive doesn't stick out past the edge. Just kind of folding it back over itself like that. And then this next piece will go on there with just a small gap between it. Get that where I want it. Probably about 1/8 of an inch or so. A bit more tape to do. There we go. Now, if you did this against your grid paper, you wouldn't have any trouble at all keeping your strips straight so you don't get crooked as you go along. But that's the basic gist of what we're going to do. I'm going to finish that up, and then I'll come back when it's all mounted. Okay, we're back. I've gotten the pieces all on my piece of acetate, as you can see. And now I am going to die cut those out. And I am using the circle dies, the largest one, which is 2 7/8, and the next one, which is 2 3/8, and then 1 7/8 and 1 3/8. So those are the 4 circles I'm going to be using. And when you place them on this particular, on your acetate, you might want to just be careful that you don't catch too skinny of a slice, because that would be difficult to maintain. And I like to try and have at least some color all the way around, not end up with an edge on a blank spot or a clear spot, so that the circle maintains its continuity. And so it's just a matter of kind of moving them around until you get to that point. And once I get them all settled, I think I'm going to do that one that way. Then I will run them through my Stampin' Cut emboss machine, and I'll be right back with those finished pieces. Kind of giving it a little extra run through. I'm going to run it through twice, because just to make sure that it punches all the way through the acetate and the cardstock. You could shim your thing as well, and that would probably help too. But I don't know if it's totally necessary. So here's our pieces that I have cut out. And that one and the smallest one. Okay, let's get this out of the way and bring those in so you can see them. So there's our 4 circles that I'm going to use for the card. Now, I am going to use the Birds and Branches stamp dies, and actually I'm going to use, they're called Birds and More dies, and they're found on page 162 of the current catalog. They're a returning item, and I am going to cut out the stem shape, and the die is here somewhere on my table. Here it is, this shape. Now you could cut any shape out that you want to use with this project, and a simpler shape might even be better, but I didn't have anything else. So this is what I'm going to use for this particular project today. And it cuts out this, goes flying off, it cuts out this particular shape. Then I'm also going to use that die to cut that shape out of this circle. Now this circle is obviously smaller, and so I'm not going to get the entire shape. So I'm just going to go for that top portion. I'm going to lay it on there like that, and I'm going to cut this shape out of this largest circle. So I'm going to take that over here and do that, and then I will be back to show you some more. I'm trying to position that on there just so that it doesn't get too awfully close to the edge or off the side. It's going to a little bit because it's a fairly good sized image, but it will work. You can hear it crackling as it goes through my through my Big Shot or my Stampin' Cut. Okay. And I'm going to bring it back, and we will lift this piece out. Just a matter of helping it get unattached here. We'll get that out of here in just a second. Let go. It can be tricky, especially if you don't get it cut correctly. There we go. And then we got this little one here to get out. And little by little, it's a little bit delicate, but it won't just fall apart. That one's giving me a little bit of trouble. I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to trim it with my scissors just a little bit right here. It's easy to see where it's at. That's why it might be good to shim it, just so you get all of that. Now, those might be kind of fun to use somewhere else, but for now, we'll just get those off to the side. Okay. So now this is the piece cut out, and this is going to fit through it like this. So this will now go into that same exact spot that it just came out of. And you can see when I lay it down, some of this is going to get cut away, and that's what I'm doing is I'm fitting it in here so that I can see where I need to trim it. And now I'm going to trim away the part I'm not going to keep. I'm just following the edge of the circle, and so that's how that's going to work right there. And we'll have 2 pieces, but that's okay. Now I took a piece of regular Whisper White and I cut it 4 by 5 1/4. Let me do that. Should have had that ready, but here we go. 5 1/4. And it's already at 4, I believe. Yes, already at 4. And I didn't want it to be just a plain background, so I embossed it with the textured Tasteful Textile embossing folder. And so let me get that. And of course, it doesn't matter which way you put it in, it's going to emboss it. So we'll just put it in there, and I will run it through. And this is one of those 3D folders, so all it needs is the base plate, the number 1 plate, and the number 4 plate for the Stampin' Cut and Emboss. And we're just going to run it through and get that ready to go. there we have that. So it gives us just a little bit of a nice fine texture, so it adds something to the card. Now we're going to start attaching these circles to this surface, and this one is going to get raised, and the rest I am going to attach flat. But this one I want to be raised, and I'm going to be using dimensionals for that. But what I'm going to do is these are not going to be raised. They're going to go on flat as well. So what I want to do is figure out on the card where I'm going to put this, and I'm thinking about letting some of this go off the edge. So I'm going to say, okay, that's where I want my pieces to be. And I'm going to put them in here. I'm going to glue them and attach them through here while this is in place. Okay, so I'm going to take my handy dandy two-way glue pin, and I'm going to add some glue to this so that it will stay in place. Give it a pretty generous dose of that here. And then I'm going to place it into there like a puzzle, and you'll feel it. You'll know that it's laying flat where it belongs. And I'm going to put that down and let that dry in place. Now it's not gluing this piece in place at all. It's just, I'm just using it for the guide to know where these pieces are going to go. And you'll see the result in just a minute here. Get this one in there as well. There we go. Just like that. And I want to give those a chance to dry, because then I'm going to peel up this circle from around it. And I'm just going to gently pick that up and get these to stay in place. And I'm not waiting, I'm rushing it because it's not totally dry. So I'm just being really careful. If you wait till they're totally dry, it would lift up without any problem at all. But I'm just hurrying it along a little bit because of the video. So you have to be patient with me on that. Okay, there we go. So now that's on there. Now we're going to dimensionalize this piece. And we're going to use dimensionals. Let me get some bigger ones here and some more small ones. Okay. So wherever a big one will fit, I will put one. And of course I'm staying behind the papered sections so that they won't show through the acetate. And we'll just peel the caps off while we're doing it. And this will take a little bit of time as well, because you're going to get into some places where a large dimensional won't fit. Then I can switch to the small ones for some of those places. And the point is to just give your circle a lot of good support. Let's see. So yeah, it just takes some time to kind of figure out where you're going to put them all. That 1/4 inch piece is just big enough for a mini dimensional. Put one over here. Whoops, stuck to me. Like that. It takes quite a few. Let's see, where else might I need one? I think I'm going to put some small ones. I'm going to take a small dimensional here and I'm going to cut it in half. So I've just got a small piece to put right here, and a small piece to put right there. Let's see, where else? I think I need some small pieces over here. Like I say, you just want it to be really well supported, so I'm definitely putting a lot of pieces in, a lot of dimensionals in here. I'm going to put one there. This is probably the most time-consuming part of this whole project, maybe other than attaching the strips to the acetate. Okay, now we are going to put this down, and we're just going to place it carefully over the areas that we had set up to be. Oh, there's a dimensional showing there, and I'm going to fix that. Get it moved up just a little bit. There we go. And so that it frames those pieces that we put down earlier. There we go. Just like that. Like I said, it's not for the faint of heart. It takes a little bit of time and patience, but it's not super hard. There we go. And there's our piece. And then it's got this bit on the edge that I'm going to cut off, and I'm just going to bring in my larger scissors and cut right through what's on the side there. So that gives a little bit of an edge. And there's that piece. I think that's kind of pretty. Okay, now these pieces I just placed in various spots, and you could raise them up if you wanted to. I'm not going to. I'm going to put them on flat. I'm going to put the Stampin' Seal on the spots behind where the cardstock is at. Doesn't need a lot. Just want to make sure that whatever you put on there is stuck down and not going to come off when you cut the edges off, because I want to cut some of the edges off of those circles. I don't want them to be just in one spot. So let's see. I think I'm going to put this one. I think I am going to just do it just like that. I don't think I'm going to come down any lower. And then this one, I need, that is not going to work for that one. I'm going to bring in some tear and tape, and I have some that's 1/8 of an inch wide for those 1/4 inch pieces, and I'm going to put some on there for that so that I don't get adhesive on the parts, on the clear parts. So I'm just going to cut some pieces of this and attach it. This is another one of my staples that I keep in my stash that aren't necessarily available, but you know, sometimes you need a little extra something. And so I keep this stuff on hand. Okay, so then we'll peel off the backing. And let's attach that one right here. And I'm going to pull this one up. I really think I'd like to have that one further down, so I'm going to use some more of this tear and tape as soon as I find the edge of it. There it is. And put some behind this section so that I can bring this down a little further and come into here like that. So there's all my pieces. Let's get those edges trimmed off that are beyond the edge of the card. And now that's ready to attach to the front of my card. So then it's just a standard with basic white thick base. And so that's the A2 size, which is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. We're going to attach it in this orientation, and it's just going to go on with standard Stamp and Seal adhesive. And it's kind of fun because that acetate behind the circles kind of has its own little shine, which makes it kind of special. I see that I've got a couple spots that really could use some mini dimensional, so I'm going to add some. And you may run into that as well when you're making yours. And like I say, any design would work, but a simpler design is probably better than not. And so you get to watch me fumble my way through this little bit here. There we go. There's that one. And then this one looks like it needs to be just a hair bit smaller. So we will just get a little tiny piece and put it on the back of that one. Stick it down as well. We'll get it to cooperate yet. There's more than one way. There we go. Okay, so there's the finished card. I hope you liked it. It was a little bit of a challenge to make, but it was just something that caught my eye, and I decided I wanted to give it a try. It may not be something I make a lot of because it's a lot of messing around, but there's that part of it. Then for the sentiment, if I can find my sentiments, I cut out a bunch of sentiments, stamped and cut out a bunch with the mini messages dies and die and stamp set, and then just particularly picked one that was long and skinny, which is what I wanted, something long and skinny. So for this, I used this one, Sending a Smile Your Way. I can't find the one I made for this one. It's gotten lost in all my mess, but you get the idea. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you'll give it a try. Let me know if you come up with some other ideas. Originally, I had cut the circles out of the acetate first, and then cut the strips like 3 inches long and went through and attached them. And then I go, oh, this is just silly. Why not do the whole sheet? That was much more convenient, worked out a lot better to be able to cut all the circles out at once and have the paper already on them. The dies did not have any trouble at all cutting them out. So let me know what you think. It's kind of fun to see the pieces raised up and see the shadow or whatever. So let me know what you think. Hope you enjoy.